parks, 2 water parks, and over 24 Disney World Resort hotels. And this is one of the most popular Christmas tunes. But did you know that Mariah Carey wrote All I Want for Christmas Is You in 15 minutes? See you next time on Bet You Didn't Know. Compliments of Sigismund Consultants, Inc.
This is News Talk Radio Guyana. Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good. With the news, I am Ruth Wilson. Good evening. First, the highlights. The opposition coalition is concerned that the local content legislation may be in violation of the CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas. The Caribbean Court of Justice has ruled that a road contract that had been awarded illegally to Chanalal Babulal. In the region, 2 persons have been killed as police battle several armed robbers in Suriname. And internationally, environmental experts say that storms such as hurricanes will be much more devastating. And the Libyan culture minister has been detained as part of an investigation into alleged corruption. Details of these and other stories in a moment.
Is it a special occasion? Are you on a budget but still want a filling and also mouth-watering meal? Look no further. KFC is here for you at 9 locations and 6 drive-thrus, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence, which now delivers from Shore Base to Little Diamond. Call 632-0533, 6080-162, or 503-3591. KFC.
It's finger licking good.
And now for the news in detail. Government and the opposition today traded concerns about amendments and omissions in the local content legislation. The bill provides for oil companies, contractors and subcontractors to bid for the provision of goods and services. Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat says that 10 of 14 proposed amendments to the local content legislation have been accepted. He says these include the establishment of a local content advisory committee with representatives from the opposition, bar association, private sector, and the National Tushaus Council. Shadow Minister of Natural Resources David Patterson, however, says that the government has knocked out the opposition's proposal for the Guyana Association of Professional Engineers and Transparency Institute of Guyana to be included. Mr. Barrett notes that the local content legislation provides for annual reviews of the master plans of international oil companies, contractors, and subcontractors. The minister says the annual reviews will allow the government to have a clearer understanding of the human resource and technical capacity of companies between now and December 2022.
So the local content bill now would help us to fully understand the day-to-day operation of the oil and gas sector and what skill set is needed, what goods and services are needed on a day-to-day basis, and what certification is required for our local companies so that they can start to build their capacity.
Mr. Patterson says that while the bill was tabled in the National Assembly on December 16, the opposition was invited by the government at 9:30 this morning to consultations. Mr. Patterson notes that the Private Sector Commission was consulted long before, although the parliamentary opposition represents more than 200,000 persons. Despite impassioned appeals by the opposition, a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change, the government refused to send the local content bill to bipartisan select committee for further consideration and amendments. AFC leader Kemraj Ramjatan.
Indeed, we are urging, Mr. Speaker, that this bill be sent to a select committee for further perfections and explanations in relation to a lot of things that we find that is not in it, and which obviously would require some expert advice to at least fill up so that we can still have a better bill. 1 month is not too long a period of time for us to report back to you with the bill.
But Natural Minister Barrett says the government is wary about the legislation getting stuck in a select committee.
We don't trust the opposition when it comes to sending bills to a special select committee. Mr. Speaker, the local content bill is a working document. It is a living document. Nothing is stopping the opposition from making submissions from us. We will continue the consultation after this bill is passed in the National Assembly. This is not the end of it, Mr. Speaker, because we have committed ourselves to changing the schedule from time to time based on our capacity.
He says the local content legislation will be constantly reviewed and the list of categories of businesses will be updated based on ongoing consultations and capacity assessment. Opposition Shadow Minister of Natural Resources David Patterson fears that the local content legislation violates the CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas. He made the observation during debate on the local content bill against the backdrop of the CARICOM Treaty providing for the rights of establishment and free movement of labor and capital across the regional single market.
Mr. Speaker, we have concerns and require clarification and confirmation from the government that this bill will not conflict with other international treaties. Guyana is a signatory to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, sir, and Article 7 of that treaty, non-discrimination, states, and colleagues will expand on specific areas of concern during their presentation. Sir, the first issue we have a concern with is CARICOM. Mr. Speaker, we have concerns and require clarification and confirmation from the government that this bill will not conflict with other international treaties.
But Attorney General Anil Nandlal says that Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago have local content policies that have not been challenged under the treaty. He says Guyana will address that concern if it arises.
It's not that we didn't address our minds to this, sir. We have addressed our minds to it, and when the issue arises, we will deal with it. We will deal with it. So you have the government's assurance that we have addressed that issue and we will deal with it at the appropriate time.
Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Minister Stuart Young is on record on a number of occasions as saying that his country is ready to assist Guyana in the development of its oil and gas sector. The local content bill provides for the employment and contracting of Guyanese. The Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, says the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, GGMC, is a procurement entity that falls under the Procurement Act. This finding was made in a judgment that found that the GGMC's decision to award the Arimu Road rehabilitation contract to Chunilal Babulal was unlawful. The CCJ says that GGMC contracted Chunilal Babulal's CBR mining in June 2013, although certain important information had been lacking from that company's bid. McDessie Mining Company and BK International had submitted the lowest bid. While the GGMC had argued in the Guyana High Court that it was a private body in law, that court had disagreed, holding that GGMC was a public agency under the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment. GGMC and Babulal appealed this decision to the Court of Appeal, but that court agreed with the High Court and dismissed the appeal. GGMC and Babulal subsequently appealed to the CCJ, which found that the GGMC was a government agency because of the public nature of its functions, the extensive ministerial control exercisable over it, and the sources of its funding included in flows from the government. The CCJ says that as an agency of the government, GGMC fell under the definition of a procurement entity in the Procurement Act and therefore had an obligation to conduct bidding according to that act. The regional court says that judicial review was available to BK because GGMC was conducting a public function, that is, a road rehabilitation project, where the funding came from the government. Further, the CCJ considered that BK had a legitimate expectation that GGMC would comply with the Procurement Act. The CCJ says there were several instances where the GGMC had not adhered to the Procurement Act. For example, the rejection of BK's bid was not done in accordance with the Procurement Act. Additionally, there was no proof of how CBNR or any of the bidders for that matter were pre-qualified. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony is warning Guyanese to take booster shots against the COVID-19 virus because Omicron can reinfect persons or those who have already received 2 shots.
With Omicron, you can get reinfected. Even if you had COVID before, this particular variant can reinfect you. And that is why we have been advocating to people, even if you had 2 doses of the vaccine, go and get a 3rd dose or a booster dose, because with booster doses, you are going to get protection. So if you have become eligible for that booster, meaning that you're 6 months after your last vaccination, go and get the booster dose, because after 6 months, after your 2nd dose, we would have seen that immunity starts weaning, meaning that you will have less antibodies.
Although the number of new cases over any 24-hour period has dropped, Dr. Anthony says that may not mean that actual figures are on the decline.
I really want to urge people not to be complacent, because a lot of times people tend to be very complacent. They feel because the numbers are dropping that, we are over the pandemic. We are not over as yet. We are a long way from being over, and we really need to take all the precautions.
The Health Ministry says that 87 new cases have been recorded within the past 24 hours. The death of a 65-year-old woman who was not vaccinated has pushed Guyana's death toll to 1,051. The Health Ministry says the woman is from Region 1. Of the 33 persons who are hospitalized, 6 are very ill and are receiving intensive care. There are now 604 persons who have been told by doctors to isolate themselves at home so that they do not spread the virus. 6 persons have been quarantined to see if they will develop COVID-19 symptoms. You're still with us on 103.1 FM, News Talk Radio Guyana. It is 18 hours 12. We now turn to news in the region. The Grenada Police Force says it will have to make tough decisions as many of its law enforcement personnel are being afflicted by the coronavirus, COVID-19. More in this report from the Grenada Broadcasting Network, GBN.
Commissioner Martin says some 600 officers are vaccinated. He expressed concern after more than 200 police officers contracted COVID-19, with many placed in isolation and 2 recorded deaths during the country's community spread of the virus.
It's causing a strain on the organization in terms of having to float vaccinated officers to areas that requires that emphasis. Quite frankly, I do not know how long, and as we move more to different establishes, businesses and organizations requiring vaccination, the mere fact that this exists, it pressures the organization more to have higher levels of vaccination in the force.
The COP said high levels of infection within the force brought the RGPF to a tipping point where the force could have come into question to be able to deliver effectively its mission and mandate in keeping the people and the country safe.
We cannot go back in that area. It means, therefore, that the leadership of the force has to make some decisive decisions to avert us reverting into this kind of possibilities into the future.
Grenada's Police Commissioner Edwin Martin ending that report from Grenada Broadcasting Network. Several units of the Surinamese police force were today deployed to an area of the country where there has been a sudden upsurge in shootings. Star News reports that 2 persons have been shot dead so far at the location named Redidoti. Authorities say that the situation has gotten quite out of hand. Earlier in the day, 1 person was shot and killed and 2 others were injured. Police say several robberies have been committed by 5 to 10 persons. The situation is not yet under control. The suspects are armed with shotguns, pistols, and revolvers. A boat from Trinidad and Tobago that illegally transported a number of Venezuelans to their country has been missing since December 23. Trinidad Newsday reports that Venezuelan authorities confirmed the information on Monday. The boat, Amia, was manned by a Trinidadian crew. Gilberto Pinto, governor of Sucre State, Venezuela, said on Monday the missing vessel entered Venezuela waters without authorization. The boat left Trinidad and headed to Juria Coast. Relatives in Venezuela told local media 9 or 10 people were traveling on the boat. The missing people who were aboard Amia included a child and the crew. The Venezuelan Coast Guard found a boat floating in international waters, so a search and rescue mission was activated. It is unknown whether the boat is the Amia. Meanwhile, Venezuelan Attorney General Tarek William Saab said on Monday that a group of 4 Venezuelans were detained and charged with illegal trafficking of people from Venezuela to Trinidad and Tobago. The Venezuelan prosecutor's office will charge them with the crimes of illegal trafficking in persons, criminal association, financing of terrorism, and trafficking of children and adolescents. St. Vincent and the Grenadines recorded its first case of the Omicron variant of the coronavirus pandemic. Authorities say the person is a fully vaccinated adult United States traveler who tested positive for the virus. The Caribbean Media Corporation reports that the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the unnamed traveler who had a negative COVID-19 test result had been subjected to further testing on arrival. NEMO said that the island had recorded 3 new COVID-19 positive cases on Monday from 74 samples collected on December 24, resulting in a positivity of 4.1%. It is 18 hours 17. We now give you the international news from the BBC.
Hello, I'm Debbie Russ with the BBC News. European countries have reported record coronavirus infections as the World Health Organization warned that a combination of the Omicron and Delta variants was leading to a tsunami of cases. The French health minister described the rise in infections there as dizzying. The UK, Italy and Spain are among the countries where cases are breaking records. The head of the WHO, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said the increase meant there was a rush to provide booster shots in Europe, while millions of people in poorer countries were waiting for their first jab. He called for better distribution of vaccines.
In the year ahead, I call for leaders of government and industry to walk the talk on vaccine equity, both by ensuring consistent supply and helping to get vaccinations actually into people.
It's been announced that the leaders of the United States and Russia will have their second phone call on Thursday in less than a month. Tensions remain high over the build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine. Grant Ferret reports.
The White House said Vladimir Putin had requested the talks with Joe Biden and that the 2 men would discuss a range of issues, including Iran. But it's clear that Ukraine will top the agenda. Officials in Washington said President Biden would offer a diplomatic path. Ahead of the planned phone call, though, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke to Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky to offer unwavering support for his country's independence. The Biden administration has also been coordinating with its NATO allies. Russia's suggestion that NATO rule out membership for Ukraine and other former Soviet countries won't be accepted by Western governments.
A new study says that climate change will expand the range of tropical cyclones, making millions more people vulnerable to devastating storms. Researchers say rising global temperatures will allow the storms to form in the mid-latitudes. Here's Palab Ghosh.
Millions of people would be affected. The kind of storms that we see in equatorial regions will become commonplace in many more parts of the world. The storms are likely to last longer and bring heavier rainfall. So places that are kind of have quite predictable weather will just have to be devastated and have to rebuild and cope with flooding on a scale that they've never been used to. So that is all the more reason to try and focus on trying to bring our emissions of CO2 under control.
Christian, Muslim, Buddhist and Hindu faith leaders in South Africa are among those who've been taking part in a memorial service in Cape Town City Hall for the late Nobel laureate Desmond Tutu. A week of events is taking place to mark the life of the anti-apartheid leader, who died on Sunday, aged 90. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. The Lebanese authorities have seized a big consignment of the amphetamine-related drug Captagon, hidden in a cargo of oranges at the port of Beirut. The Lebanese Interior Minister said that almost 9 million pills had been found, which he said were due to be sent to a Gulf Arab country. Prosecutors in Libya have ordered the detention of the Minister of Culture as part of an investigation into alleged corruption. They said that Mabrouka Touki was being detained on charges of falsifying official documents in order to interfere with the monitoring of public spending. Ms. Touki was appointed to her post in March as part of the interim unity government. Police in southern China have been seen parading 4 alleged offenders wearing hazmat suits through the streets in an apparent public shaming exercise. Will Leonardo reports.
The 4 men in the city of Jingxi were accused of smuggling people across China's borders, which are largely sealed because of COVID. The incident was captured on camera by observers. It drew a crowd of onlookers, while the alleged rule breakers, holding placards with their names and photos, were seen ringed by armed police. The shaming drew mixed reactions online in China, including in state-owned media. One outlet wrote that the measure seriously violated the spirit of the rule of law. Local officials defended the exercise as appropriate. China pursues a strict zero-COVID policy, using mass testing and lockdowns to stop outbreaks.
The pioneering photographer Sabina Weiss, who was celebrated for her candid pictures of ordinary people on the streets of Paris, has died at her home in the French capital. She was 97. Sabina Weiss was born near Geneva and moved to Paris after the Second World War. For decades, she chronicled social change in the city, becoming a key figure in the movement known as French humanism. She once told a newspaper she'd wanted to immortalise snotty-nosed kids and beggars through her photos. That's the latest BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
On the go and need to grab a quick bite, but tired of the same dreary food? Well, KFC is here to brighten your day with a delicious, mouth-watering meal with their 9 convenient locations: Movie Town, Vlissingen Road, Mandela Avenue, Regent Street, Stabroek, Hink Street, Vredenhoek, Parika, and the Amazonia Mall, now open from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. And they're there to welcome you every day. KFC.
It's finger licking good.
To end the news, here's a recap of the highlights. The opposition coalition is concerned that the local content legislation may be in violation of the CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas. The Caribbean Court of Justice has ruled that a road contract that had been awarded to Chanilal Babulal is illegal. In the region, 2 persons have been killed as police battle several armed robbers in Suriname. And internationally, environmental experts say that storms such as hurricanes will be much more devastating. And the Libyan culture minister has been detained as part of an investigation into alleged corruption. The news came to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
It is 18 hours at 24. You're still with us on 103.1 News Talk Radio Guyana. Please be reminded that No Big Thing will be on right here on 103.1 FM on January 1 from 9 hours and will be rebroadcast at 18 hours, pushing it a little to give you it on January 2 by viewers' request. And you can also expect that and Stretched Out magazine to be streamed live on Demerara Waves Facebook page and YouTube channel.
On December 24 to January 1, you can get your greetings 6 times each day, streaming with your image on Christmas Day. 5-minute live broadcast.
All this for $20,000. Here's another fabulous update for all our listeners and new clients. Instead of ending your Christmas greetings with us on January 1, you can do so on January 3. That is right, for no cost attached, no strings attached on this one. So you can end your greetings with us on January 3rd.
Or 4 times each day
for $15,000.
Right here on NTRG.
Call us on 614-8205 or 692-9400 for details. Merry Christmas from News Talk Radio Guyana, 103.1 FM.
We, the Board of Directors, Management and Staff of News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM
would like to extend our gratitude to the following companies
for being a part of our 12 Days of Christmas promotion:
Giftland Mall,
Giftland Office Max,
Food Max Superstore,
Giftland Electronics Store,
Jade's Walk,
Pinnacle Business Service,
Exclusive Dress to Impress,
Polo Tropical,
Church's Chicken,
Dairy Queen,
and Scene.
Thank you for putting smiles on the faces of all our winners.
And we look forward to working with you in the new year.
A very Merry Guyanese Christmas to you, your wonderful staff, and their families.
And may the new year bring you blessings beyond your expectations.
I've waited and waited for someone I never see, but I'm so sentimental and I'm so hopeful you'll be here. So here I am every year, every Christmas. In my head, and I got my answer that first moment that we met. And oh yes, I believed you as you told me, as you said you'd be here every year, every Christmas. There must be a lesson for me to learn. If you don't trust and love, you get nothing in return. Why should I be lonely? Don't tell me it's right. I have my pride, but I'd rather be with you tonight. So much emotion, it's driving me mad. Yeah, but I'll take my chances with these feelings that I have, and I'll come back to this same corner Are you gonna leave me standing here? Today's almost over, but I don't wanna leave. Has my heart made a fool out of me? My friends gather around me with holiday cheer. Yeah, they say to forget you, to let you go, 'cause you're not here. Well, I can't keep explaining what they'll never understand, and why I'm here every year, every Christmas. I return every year, every Christmas. I come here every